Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos. It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yum. It's like a dream.
That's right. It is like a dream because we are California dreaming. We are having a good time here in California. Fortunately, Mike will not be with us today, but I've got you. So we're going to have a good time. By the way, if you're watching this program live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, go ahead and comment. We are taking your comments live on the program. Go ahead and let us know what's up. If we find your comments to be interesting, well, you know what? I'll go ahead and I'll share them with the audience. And if I don't, then I won't. Know that in order for them to be interesting, you don't have to agree. You just have to be interesting. But if you disagree, well, just know this. We do reserve the right to mock you. Now, we may just correct you, but mocking is so much more fun. Anyway, we're going to have a good time today because it's going to be me. It's going to be you. We're going to have this ongoing conversation about what's going on in the news today. But before we do that, we got to do what we got to do. And you know how that all starts. It starts with a quick shout out to our sponsors. Okay, our first sponsor here that we're going to be talking about is going to be Hitman Industries. You will, if you are looking for to either do, if you're looking to do a rebuild, if you're looking to do a rebuild, or maybe you're looking to rebarrel your current rifle, you can look at no better place than Hitman Industries. You can find them at hitmanindustries.net. And when you go there, you're going to find, well, let's put it this way. If you've already purchased an AR in the last couple of years, chances are you already have one of their barrels. So why not get another one? This is the place to go to get rifle and pistol caliber barrels. They are available for you, and they are the top of the line. Let me guarantee you of that. They are the top of the line. You want to go there. You want to check them out today. After that, we've got the California Republican Assembly. They are fighting the good fight behind enemy lines right here in the great state of California, working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Go to cragop.org, check them out, check out the organization, find out what they're about, find out who they're working for, and then, by the way, become a member. Because if you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That's right. You will find them at hogholsters.com. And the best part is this, is that if you use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, just one word, just like it is right up there, you're going to get a discount on us. Find them today at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, if you're looking for hot weather gear, if you're looking for wet weather gear, whatever gear you're looking for, get your group together, get your agency together, get your department together, and get on over to uscombatgear.com. They've got a huge selection of gear. They've got great pricing and the best customer service available on the market. Go there today, uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. All right, starting off with the news today, and this is actually a very, very big news item. As we know, there are judges and there are partisan judges who are putting in place these injunctions all across the country. 95%, first of all, let me take a step back. The overwhelming majority of, well, no, let me take a step back again, even from that. First of all, there have been more injunctions placed against the actions of President Donald Trump than any other president before him. No, let me clarify. More than any other president before him. All of them put together, you got to take all of them together, you add them up. That's right. More than that, right? And the overwhelming majority, somewhere around 95% of those injunctions have been put in place by judges that have been appointed by Democrats. So but now here's the thing. We know that a lot of the things that Trump is doing, he's pushing the line, and I get it. He's pushing the line on a lot of things, but most of the things just seem kind of reasonable. Like in the case of looking at downsizing the federal workforce. Now, one would think that because it's called the executive branch of government, excuse me, that the chief executive would be in charge. He would be the one that would be making the decisions in regards to hiring and firing and all of that stuff. Now, obviously, there are laws in place that protect workers and protect the workforce and kind of outline how that process is supposed to go. There's union contracts and agreements and all of that stuff. But as far as I know, as far as I understand, the Trump administration has been working well within those laws and for the most part, and working well within those contracts. But yet, you still had a judge who decided that he believed he was more powerful than the president of the United States and was going to block it. Well, guess what? Such is not the case anymore. This being reported by the folks over at PBS News. Supreme Court clears way for Trump to downsize the federal workforce. By the way, this is coming to you from the Associated Press, in case you're wondering why it sounds a little lefty. Anyway, the Supreme Court on Tuesday cleared the way for President Donald Trump's plan to downsize the federal workforce, despite warnings that critical government services will be lost and hundreds of thousands of federal employees will be out of their jobs. The justices overrode lower court orders that temporarily froze the cuts, which have been led by Department of Government Efficiency, or otherwise known as DOGE. The court said in an unsigned order that no specific cuts were in front of the justices. Only the executive order issued by Trump and the administration's directive for agencies to undertake job reductions. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was a lone dissenting vote, accusing her colleagues of a, quote, demonstrated enthusiasm for greenlighting the president's legally dubious actions in an emergency posture. Jackson warned of erroneous real-world consequences. This executive action promises mass employment terminations, widespread cancellation of federal programs and services, and the dismantling of much of the federal government as Congress has created it, she wrote. The High Court action continued a remarkable winning streak for Trump, who the justices have allowed to move forward with significant parts of his plan to remake the federal government. The Supreme Court's intervention so far has been on the frequent emergency appeals. The Justice Department has filed objections to lower court rulings as improperly intruding on presidential authority. So here's the deal. And basically what they're noting here in this piece is kind of the obvious. Yeah, most of these are dealing with injunctions because most of these cases the cases in total have not made their way to the Supreme Court. They haven't. But you've got these local judges, these local justices in various different districts who are almost, like I said, almost all, if not overwhelmingly, 95% I think qualifies as overwhelmingly, Democrat judges, Democrat left-leaning judges who are approving these things, who are basically saying, and by the way, the fact that this was an 8-1 decision, let's say that again, it was an 8-1 decision, meaning Sotomayor and Kagan also sided with the administration, demonstrates that this is not legally dubious at all. This is not legally dubious at all. And generally what happens is when the justices look at these injunctions, part of their analysis is the fact that are they likely to succeed in court? Is the case that's being made by the administration likely or unlikely to succeed in court? If Donald Trump was unlikely to succeed in his challenges to in this particular case, they would have thrown it out. I mean, they would have kept it in. They would have made it so that it would continue to go on, right? The injunction would not have been thrown out. But guess what? They ruled a different way. So it is. Put it to you this way. Ketanji Brown is basically arguing that even the liberal justices, but basically all of her colleagues are supporting a scheme that is legally dubious. So she's saying, they're all dumb. I'm the smart one. Listen to me. Um, I'm sorry. And by the way, this is the one who can't tell you what a woman is. Yeah, that's that one. She can't tell you what a woman is, but she can tell you what's legally dubious or not. No, no, no. I think your understanding of basic biology is kind of dubious. But once again, this is a huge win for the Trump administration. And keep in mind, I think a lot of these things that the Trump administration is doing that is being challenged in court. One, I think he knew they were going to be challenged in court. But secondly, I think there were two things that were going to happen. Number one, lines were clearly going to be drawn. Things that are actually dubious things, questions that do need to be asked. Like I still believe that there is a legitimate question relating to what the founders intended, relating to birthright citizenship. Things like that are going to be eventually decided, and we're going to have some clarity. Things dealing with things like the Second Amendment and whether or not you have a fundamental right to keep and bear arms or to bear arms outside of your home. Once again, that was something that needed to be adjudicated. I didn't think it was dubious. I always thought we had that. But anyway, the point is that these things are now being adjudicated in court. But the other thing that he's doing is, well, doing exactly what he knew he could do. And the reason why he knew he could do it was because he actually paid attention. The people in his administration paid attention to what the left has basically been doing for decades now in terms of increasing the power of the executive. They've created a lot of these agencies and a lot of these organizations, and a lot of this funding has been created out of nothing. It's been created out of executive orders and executive actions and interpretations by departments, and all he's doing is basically utilizing the very tools that the left has created to undo all the stuff that they did, and they don't like it. See, when you use executive overreach to get what you want, you don't care, because in the end, the left only cares about getting what they want. But when you use that very same executive overreach to undo it, well, now they're losing their freaking minds. And, hopefully this is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to the legislative branch, the folks in Congress, the folks in the House, the folks in the Senate, to wake up and, I don't know, do your jobs. Right? Maybe you can stop being vague. Maybe you can actually start legislating. Maybe you can provide definitions and details so that there won't be vague interpretations, so that an administration will not be allowed to redefine things in a way in which benefits them, right? All because you're either too lazy in the legislative branch or just not quite bright enough to figure out how to make it work. Guess what? That's your job. And if you don't want that job, then get out of Congress. Period. Anyway, hats off to the administration for doing what we all know needs to be done. So, love y'all. Y'all doing great. Very much appreciate all of the work that you are doing. Let's see here. Moving right along to our next story. Let's see if I can get this pulled up right here. There we go. All right, moving on to our next story. Judge halts federal funding of Planned Parenthood. This is a big one, folks. This is a huge one because there are a lot of folks who are just like, look, no, the federal government needs to get in the way. And by the way, this is another example of judicial overreach, of the legislative branch doing something that they really did not have the authority to do. Anyway, so let's pull up the story here. Here we go. And we've got to make this so it's important that you guys are actually able to read this. Here we go. It says here, judge torched for Planned Parenthood order. Her court looks like fast food drive. By the way, looks like fast food drive-through. Anyway, I apologize. The point that I'm making here is basically a Georgia judge. Anyway, it says basically this is an Obama judge who put an injunction in order to keep them from defunding Planned Parenthood. I stand corrected in terms of my original interpretation. Anyway, all that having been said, it says here, a federal judge drew enormous backlash from Republicans after she blocked the Trump administration on Monday from following through on a provision in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that strips federal funding from Planned Parenthood. Now, mind you, this is not an executive order. This is actually law that was put in place. It says here, critics of Judge Idari Talwani said her fast-acting decision to grant Planned Parenthood the nation's largest abortion vendor a temporary restraining order was an extraordinary overreach of judicial authority. Yes, it was, because the Supreme Court already ruled you ain't supposed to be doing that. Uh, Tom Jipping, senior legal fellow at the Conservative Heritage Foundation, told Fox News Digital the judge's move was obviously out of bounds. What you have here is Congress exercising its explicit constitutional authority to make spending decisions, and you have a district judge arguably trying to exercise the power she doesn't have to force Congress to change. Now, what I want you folks to understand here is, going back once again, this is not just a rando. This is not a rando decision by the executive. This is not the president deciding to write an executive order. This is Congress passing a law, a bill, and the president signing it into law, and then a judge saying, no, you cannot do that, for no other reason than I don't like it. Now, I don't understand under what jurisdiction this judge thinks that she has the ability to do this, especially since it's already been ruled via the birthright citizenship case that district judges don't have the authority to do this. But yet she decided to go ahead and do it anyway. Well, anyway, that's going to, in the end, be undone. And I want you to understand, this isn't just about abortion. In fact, I wanted to share a small piece of this video clip here with you, because this video clip will explain to you that this is not just about abortion, but it is still about protecting our children. Because not only is Planned Parenthood the largest abortion provider in the nation, they also happen to be the largest provider of, they call it gender affirming, I call it sex trait mutilization of drugs and surgeries to children. And that's what this piece here, put together by Will Kane, actually communicates.
Live from Texas, this is the Will Kane Show. We start today with an original, exclusive, and explosive story. Planned Parenthood. At this point, almost everybody in the nation knows what they do. The nation's most notorious abortion provider has made a point that they're much more than simply a facility to accommodate abortions. They've made the point that they are about reproductive health, that they help in women's health. Well, it's true. They do much, much more than abortions. The mission statement for Planned Parenthood reads, help people live full, healthy lives, no matter income, insurance, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, or immigration status. Provide inclusive and comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care services. Advocate for public policies that protect and expand reproductive rights. And provide medically accurate information while promoting research and technology that enhances reproductive health care. So that's the mission. But as we suggested, when you dig, we find out they do a lot more than abortion. On the Planned Parenthood website, it reads they proudly provide gender-affirming care, including estrogen hormone therapy, testosterone hormone therapy, puberty blockers, surgery referrals, and transition support. This part of what they do is not well known, but it got the attention of pro-life organization Live Action. Undercover reporters with Live Action got on the phone and called different Planned Parenthood offices across the nation. And what they found regarding minors is alarming.
Hi, my name's Sophia. I'm just trying to schedule some gender-affirming care. I really just want to be able to get some testosterone to start my journey.
So we just have to start by booking your initial appointment so you can come in to see one of our providers. Are you over 18?
No, I'm 16.
You're good to be seen here then, 16 and older.
I know my mom has to come in with me. And does she have to be in there the whole time? Like, how does that work? Because I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
At some point in the appointment, maybe she doesn't have to be in the examining room with you.
Right, some offices accepting calls from minors, calling on their own to inquire about a sex change, and yet there's more.
You said I could do it virtually?
Yeah, you could do it virtually.
So what would that look like? So I just talk to a doctor and then they'd be able to prescribe me?
Yeah.
I don't need any like therapy or anything first? Like you don't need any record of that?
Not that I know of.
I don't need any sort of like records of having gone to therapy or anything like that, right?
Yeah, so unless you have TRICARE insurance, it would not be required.
Right, some of these offices saying people, in fact, don't need evaluation before getting access to hormone therapy drugs. And yet, there's still more.
Decided last week, and so I kind of want to get in as soon as possible. Do you have any appointments available soon?
Yeah, it depends on the location too, but we usually do have availability for like the next week of whenever you call.
You think that if I came in, went over everything with the doctor, and they could send the prescription that day?
Yes, I think they should be able to. The provider is going to send the prescription to your pharmacy the same day of your appointment.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
As you heard there, some offices wasting no time between an initial call and access to hormone drugs that day. Our show reached out to Planned Parenthood branches. In these calls, we did not hear back from any of those offices of Planned Parenthood. Live Action is blowing the lid off of all of this. And joining me now is the president of Live Action, Lila Rose. Lila, thank you for being with us here today and reporting this exclusively here on The Will Cain Show. I know you're making this available all over on your websites. You're putting out releases. And as I understand it, you're also buying billboards in Times Square.
That's right. Well, this is a breaking story, and we're proud to get to break it here with you, but it's absolutely insane. Planned Parenthood, which has bragged about being one of the leading providers of cross-sex hormones, is actually providing cross-sex hormones, which are life-altering, to 16-year-olds without any therapy, any psychiatric evaluation, any counseling appointment, and they're doing same-day appointments to send them right away to the prescription store to get their drugs, and this can be, of course, life-altering, these trans hormones, life-altering for minors. And this is what they're doing across the.
So yeah, there's a lot more. It's a total 11-minute interview, but the point is that they are not just harming, they're not just killing children in the womb. They are harming children once they get out of the womb. I mean, for anyone who's done any research, serious research into these drugs, into these surgeries, one of the things you'll find is multiple European countries have ended or have said, look, we're no longer providing or recommending these as tools to utilize to deal with gender dysphoria, because not only do they not address the issue, not only do they reduce the likelihood of suicidal ideation, not only do they not address the issue, they in fact can do and have often done harm, physical harm, psychological harm to the children who have been given those drugs. We've talked about this on the show. Hey, you know what? Hey, if you're an adult, you do what you want to do. But we're talking about with kids. And Planned Parenthood brags about being the #1 provider of those services, of these drugs, of these surgeries to children. And there's no way that I believe that our federal dollar should be, especially right now, by the way, considering the fact that via executive order, there's only 2 genders. Now, I would love to see that passed in law, but we shall see in Congress. But anyway, all that having been said, this judge is eventually going to be overturned once this gets to the Supreme Court. They're fighting. They are fighting tooth and nail because this Planned Parenthood, let's be honest, it's founded by Margaret Sanger, who's a believer in eugenics, who's a believer in population control, who is connected to, or at least spoke multiple times before the Ku Klux Klan. I believe she spoke before Nazis, or at the very least, the Nazi Party used a lot of her talking points as a way in which to help promote what it is that they wanted to do via eugenics. Anyway, so this is something that I'm very kind of pissed off about this judge, but I stand confident that this will wind up getting overturned. Now, to be honest, initially it's going to get overturned simply because it's already been ruled that this judge doesn't have the authority to do the nationwide ban like that. But that having been said, I also believe that this also has to do with the fundamental role of the executive. And you don't get to tell the executive branch how to do their job just because you don't like the decisions that they make. And So we've seen that the left, and we've talked about this once again, also in the past on the show, the left is pretty much resounded that they're okay with violence. They're okay with violence against the right, violence against the Trump administration, violence against the government, violence against ICE agents or law enforcement, anybody they believe that is instituting or doing things that they disagree with. And you had a panelist named Tiffany Cross on CNN who basically is like, look, who's instigating such violence. And she's doing so by basically saying, look, hey, Trump is kidnapping non-white people and throwing them into concentration camps.
I think this is the challenge I have with even talking about this. We are normalizing a government agency disappearing people. We are normalizing, we're talking about it like it's no big deal that they are kidnapping people and transporting them to concentration camps, both domestic and foreign. I think
that's kind of insulting to,
I think it's
Jewish
insulting what they're
Holocaust
doing.
survivors.
It is not insulting to Jewish Holocaust. I find it insulting that you could even fix your mouth to defend this disgusting
gas
behavior.
ovens at these?
It's not a death camp.
It doesn't matter. It's a concentration camp what they're doing, and they are disappearing people, claiming that these are people who have committed the most harsh crimes. But according to the reporting, less than 10% of these people have committed harsh crimes. So to do the victim Olympics and decide who had it worse, I can tell you, I can participate in that too. And everybody who says, "Oh, this is not the America I know," I can guarantee you, it is the America I know. Can I finish my point, please?
Yes.
We are the fact that we're presenting this like it's political fodder, that a government agency is disappearing people. It is not a political point. It has nothing to do with Jewish people, because despite the fact that 20% of immigrants in this country are white, we do not see white people getting carted off to concentration camps. So if we can just focus on the people who are harmed the most by this, and not make yourself or somebody else the center of attention, when that's not who's getting impacted by this.
See, now here's the funny part is, because you notice the little flip there, right? When she talked about 20% of immigrants. See, because in their eyes, they put all people, whether you come here legally or illegally, they put them all together in one group. And that's just not the case. I hate to say this, but no, it's just simply not the case. Now, they also do what Tiffany Cross here did, is she thinks that because she can yell, because she can get in the face of the conservative, and quite frankly, I wish the conservative would have pushed back. I wish she would have said, wait a minute, why don't you shut up? Because this is not your show. You don't get to just keep talking. You don't get to interrupt me, and I don't get to interrupt you. That's not how this is going to work. You know, the reality is you're offended because we have a government agency, we have a president who is enforcing the law. Maybe you have something wrong with the law. Well, here's what you do. You go to Congress and you change the law. That's what you do. Are you not smart enough to understand that? Do you not understand how our government works? Do you not like the fact that the people that the Trump administration is going after are criminals? They are raping, they are robbing, they are murdering people, American citizens and other immigrants. But you don't care about them because you'd rather have the rapists running the streets. You'd rather have the child molesters molesting children. You would rather defend them. Why? Because you don't like Donald Trump. That's why. That's how she should have come back at her. That's how she should have been in her face. Because in the end, now I get it. There are people who are going to be watching that program who aren't going to care. They just want to hear what Tiffany Cross is going to do. But here's the thing. They need to see the pushback. They need to know that there's arguments on the other side. And they need to know that if they take Tiffany Cross's side, they're on the side of child molesters. They're on the side of rapists. They're on the side of murderers. They're on the side of robbers. Right? They're on the side of people who've been deported from this country multiple times. And when they talk about the people who are being caught up, who are just simply here illegally, well, guess what? They're here illegally. They entered the country illegally. They're not supposed to be here. And we don't know who they are. So you can't say they're not criminals because you don't know who they are, because they weren't vetted when they came in. You can't say that. What we do know is they're here illegally. If someone is in your house illegally, you have them removed. That's kind of how that works. But see, Democrats don't want to say anything about that. They don't want to say anything about that because guess what? They need people to mow their lawns, right? They need people to pick their cotton. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. Wrong generation. They need someone to pick their lettuce, right? They need someone to babysit their kids. They need a permanent lower class of people, people of color that they can enslave, that they can employ below market wage in horrible working conditions so that they don't have to do the things. And then, by the way, I think we should change that whole phrase. They're not doing jobs that Americans won't do. They're doing jobs that Democrats don't want to do. They're doing jobs that liberals don't want to do because they think it's beneath them, the Tiffany Crosses of the world. And I just wish that lady would have done a better job of standing up to her. Anyway, that's my thought on that one. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about Mr. Epstein. You may have been, if you've been paying attention, you now know that according to the FBI, it's closed. The case is closed. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel has basically come out and said, yeah, we've looked into it, and Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. And on top of that, let's just say that no one else is going to wind up being indicted.
Now to the breaking news overnight about the Jeffrey Epstein files and the conspiracy theories officially being rejected. Overnight, the FBI and Justice Department releasing 11 hours of footage they say helps confirm notorious financier Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide in his Manhattan jail cell in 2019, awaiting his sex trafficking trial. According to a memo detailing the findings, investigators found the video showed no one entering the area in the overnight hours before Epstein was found unresponsive. But perhaps the biggest bombshell, investigators say they found no incriminating client list of Epstein's, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, and no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. For years...
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm just going to put it this way. I admittedly, I do find this hard to believe, but I also know this, that there are people who I believe to be credible people who've basically determined that this is in fact the case. Now, the question is this: you either have to believe, and I've heard Ben Shapiro make this case, and I have to agree with him. You either believe that people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, which I don't know, Kash Patel, didn't really follow Kash Patel or Pam Bondi beforehand. So I don't really know about them, but I had followed Dan Bongino, and I do find him to be relatively credible, or I do find him to be credible. But I also know that all three of those folks were on the other side. They believed that there was something going on with the Epstein files. And if they come back and they say that there's no there, then you either have to believe that they are lying and that they have been bought off, or you have to believe that that they've looked at the evidence and come up with a different conclusion or change their perspective. I think if you're going to decide that they lied, that they're lying, then you at the very least need to be able to offer some sort of evidence to the contrary, right? Don't just say you don't believe them because you don't want to believe them. Don't call them liars just because you don't. Let me clarify. Don't just call them liars just because you don't want to believe them. You have some plausible evidence. Anyway, and by the way, just so you know, I like Ben Shapiro said, I am more than willing to change my perspective. You show me solid evidence, and I will believe. I'm right there. I am right there. I said, by the way, I said the same thing about the election being stolen in 2020. And I still say that to Mike. So far, the evidence to prove that the election was stolen via voting machines. Let me be specific. Via voting machines has not manifested. Now, the changing of rules in the midst of the game, yeah, that happened. The media basically lying about multiple things, that happened. The FBI, or the three-letter agencies, the alphabet soup of the federal government going after Donald Trump unfairly. Yes, all of that happened, and all of that worked against Donald Trump and helped to get Joe Biden elected. So I believe that the election was stolen. I just believe that's how it was stolen. I don't believe that it was stolen via the ballot boxes, shall we say. Anyway, moving right along, that's now going to bring us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. As you may or may not know, Karen Bass did a press release. By the way, she is suing the federal government over the raids that took place in Los Angeles. And she told ICE, we want you to get out of Los Angeles. We don't know why you're here, but we want you gone. Well, the gentleman who is in charge of the operations there in Los Angeles, well, he's got a little something to say to Ms. Bass.
The federal government is not leaving L.A. I don't work for Karen Bass. The federal government doesn't work for Karen Bass. We're going to be here till that mission's accomplished, as I said, and better get used to us now, because this is going to be normal very soon.
That's right. As long as you are deciding that you are going to ignore federal law, then yeah, you're going to be held accountable. So that's what's going to be going on, what's her name? Ms. Bass, Mayor Bass. That's what's going to be happening there. This gentleman here, you may have never have heard of him, but I will tell you, he has been a mainstay in California politics for quite a while. One of the smartest guys that I know, and here he is, and he is talking about, while Democrats are always busy talking about a threat to democracy, here he is talking about the actual threat to democracy.
This is the simple, awful truth of the Biden administration. For the first time in American history, a presidential administration targeted its chief rival for criminal prosecution, concocted the most flimsy criminal charges, turned the federal law enforcement machinery against it, colluded with the Democratic state law enforcement officials to do the same. This is the historical record. This happened. And when we speak of threats to democracy, what greater threat can there be than one party trying to jail its political opposition? I would frankly advise the ranking member to be very careful in citing the conviction of the president in the kangaroo court of Judge Merchan. A staggering range of legal experts, from Alan Dershowitz on one side to Jonathan Turley on the other, have commented at great length on just how outrageous these proceedings were and how likely they are to be overturned upon competent review. If these professors turn out to be correct, the ranking member and his many acolytes here in this Congress are going to have their words quoted back to them for the rest of their lives. Those who've tried to put their political opponents in jail have never fared well before history, and nor have their apologists. Omar Khayyam put it this way. He said, "The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. Nor all thy piety nor wit can call it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it." So my Democratic colleagues might want to take a step back and consider how history will judge them in the years ahead, when passions have cooled and the facts remain.
Exactamundo. That's exactly what's going on. I find it funny because when they talked about Trump being Hitler before the 2020 election, they had no evidence. All they knew was, Biden's going to be better. And now you have a guy who literally has been a threat to democracy, who literally has threatened democracy. A guy who is a member of a party that, when he dropped out, put up a candidate that nobody voted for, that absolutely nobody voted for. Anyway, that's just my two cents on that one. And then finally, when it comes to USAID and what we're doing in foreign governments, Marco Rubio, who I believe will be, if he keeps going along the way he's going, will be a solid presidential contender, had these words to say.
I'll say this: even with the reforms we put in place and what we're suggesting as changes to our foreign aid, we still will provide more foreign aid, more humanitarian support than the next 10 countries combined, than the entire OECD, and far more than China. China doesn't do humanitarian aid. China does predatory lending. That's what Belt and Road Initiative is. That's what all of their aid. They have zero record of doing humanitarian aid in the world. And frankly, they don't know how to do it. They have no interest in doing it. What they're very good at is going into some country, making you a loan, and then holding that debt over your head. And that's what they can.
And that's pretty much who they are. Anyway, folks, I've got to go ahead and run. We're at the end of the program. Just a real quick shout out to our sponsors. We have Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase today. The California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. We've got Hog holsters, the best in concealed carry tactical holsters on the market. And you can find all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to be done for the day. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program, encouraging your friends to do the same. We'll be back tomorrow on Hump Day. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we'll see you mañana.